Hi guys, Jared here with Day Traders FX. Hopefully you're having a great day. Let's dive right into what's going on in these markets. Another pretty flat day as far as U.S. markets go. I don't even know what the count is now, but it's several days of just, nothing too much on the upside or downside with Dow and S&P. You can see that we're, about 30, 34 points down on the Dow, just kind of a flat day. S&P's just at zero, no major moves. Currencies are still moving a little bit, and we've been able to grab some trades, but the U.S. markets are really just going slow, and they're just kind of waiting for that breakout, which is coming, and we're going to talk about that. We saw the core CPI this morning. It came out same as last month's numbers, a little worse than expected, not much of a reaction to it. What I'm looking forward to today is going to be the Australian employment numbers. Australian employment numbers can be pretty big movers on the Aussie pairs, so let's be ready for those. Let's see how that whole situation goes. And we're going to have a live session, so make sure to join us in the chat. This is at 4:30 p.m. Pacific, so join us in the chat for that live session for the Aussie employment numbers. We'll be trading that and looking for some good stuff there. Okay, let's talk about a couple of things here. Euro dollar, as you can see, over the last several hours hasn't moved too much. We got into this little rundown right here. It bounced. We were up some nice little pips, held on to it, weren't able to get back up above that daily pivot, and has managed to stay below the daily pivot. And we ended up getting out with a small profit as this kind of continued to just chop around. So it's kind of in that same position. Above the daily pivot, I think it looks interesting, and that's about 133.20. If we get an open above that area, we might be able to get some nice upside potential back into that 13400. Also, as always, I'm always looking for levels that can give us some better entries. If we get a nice reversal candle happening at about this 132.50 area, then it gets pretty it gets interesting. We might actually have something that's worth jumping into right there. So a nice hammer or something to get us that confirmation of this 132.50, and I might be looking to buy the euro dollar there. Otherwise, if we get a break of this 132.50, which you can see is Friday's low right here, Friday's low, we get a break of that, and I think this pair could be headed quite a bit lower down into this missed daily pivot of Friday, which also happens to be S2 for today. So there's a nice little 40 to 50 pip run potential there. Excuse me. And that's kind of what I'm looking for. So I'm looking for, again, just a confirmation of a bounce off 132.50 or break. The only thing that is going to be a bit curious to look at is not only do we have pretty good support here, definitely not unbreakable support, but it's pretty good support. But we do have the 200 EMA right here as well, 200-day moving average, and this is a pretty good area for the market to kind of bounce off of. But we do have this missed pivot, and there's good reason to believe that this could be making that run just a little bit lower before turning and hopefully heading back up to the upside. Nothing too crazy on the rest of these charts here. It's just kind of business as usual here on the other time frames. Pound dollar is setting up nicely. As I talked about in the chat today, I'm decently interested, surprisingly, at selling this thing around 160.15, 160.20, right around there. In this high candle, we got about 160.14. And so it got close to where I wanted to get in, but now I'm just watching it, and I think there was probably a lot of buyers down at this 159.95, and so I think the market was just able to kind of stop everybody out. And I wouldn't be surprised if this pound dollar is really ready to make a run for it now. It has struggled a little bit getting below those levels, and this could be taken as a bit of a reversal candle, so keep an eye on that. But I do like this pound dollar, and I think that breaking this trend line and ultimately getting below this 159.95 is bearish. Now, once again, we talked about this. We have 159.50 is the 200-day moving average on the daily chart. That is bound to put in some pretty good support there. So just because we get below 159.95 doesn't mean it's free falling, but it definitely means that we should see a move at least into that 159.50, which, depending on where your entries are and so on, should be able to get 40 or 50 pips out of a move like that. But just again on this 4-hour chart, be careful, because this could be starting to turn into a little bit of a reversal pattern. So I'm just going to kind of keep an eye on this, but I'm hoping that was enough to take stops out and open this up for a bit of a nice run down. So So again, that's kind of what I'm looking for. You know, basically below 159.95. I'm looking to reach about 159.50. So if we get a little bit of retracement, that could be good. Or if we just get back down into this, 159.90, 95 area, that could be good as well. So it's a little bit of a tricky one. We're gonna have to play that one. Keep our ear to the ground on that, but it should be a nice mover. Aussie dollar. So remember, we have Australian employment numbers. The Aussie dollar hasn't done too much this week at all. In fact, the weekly low and weekly high were basically we made a new high by about 3 pips here, but the weekly low and high were basically set the first trading day of the week, and it's been range bound inside that area since. I have a feeling we might be ready to break this upper channel here, and I think that's probably where we're headed, is through 10600. Remember, I'm a buyer at 10600, and 10605. But also, now that we have this weekly high here, which is about 105.80, that might be a good area to start buying as well. So coming up on the employment numbers this afternoon, in the next couple of hours, we may be looking to buy into the break of that high or even this low, depending on how those numbers come out. So again, we'll have a live session for that, but just watch this 105.80 and 105.20. That's the weekly high and weekly low, and so far it's staying nicely inside of that. But ultimately, I like the buy at 10600. But I think even 105.85 might be a good area to start looking for that buy. So Aussie's looking pretty good for that. So let's just keep our eye on that whole situation. And then remember, we talked a little bit about the dollar Swiss franc. This one has been a little bit choppy. The thing that I was most interested in was the fact that it has broken the trend line and that it's above the monthly high so far, and it's kind of hanging in there pretty well. So as it's above that area, it looks pretty good. It looks like it's doing a pretty good job hanging in there. I like being a buyer above 9,300, but it just kind of has a feeling of instability to it right now, and that's what I'm a little bit cautious about. We have a nice little reversal candle here, which hopefully can signal some further upside. But whatever you decide to do, just know that I'm keeping my eye on being a possible buyer here. Anything below this daily pivot, though, really kind of turns the picture. So if we start to get like 1 hour candles opening below this 92, 85-ish area, then we should see some downside movement. We have missed pivots. We have a missed pivot down here. It's about 90 pips away. So there's a nice sell opportunity below this daily pivot. Once again, a 1 hour candle opening below this crosses our moving averages, starts getting things headed down into those missed pivots. Otherwise, if we can hold above this daily pivot, then I like the buy opportunity there. So that's what I'm looking at. Again, big moves on the Aussie dollar this afternoon. We'll be live in the chat for that, and I look forward to seeing you all there. Best of luck, everyone. If you have any questions, let me know, and we'll see you soon. Take care.